Welcome back to Channel 1 for SAP TechEd 2020. I'm here from the roof, as you can see. It's the first time I'm on the roof, so I'm super excited. And this is a very special hour that we have coming up. So we're actually going to have a making of SAP TechEd, which is going to be super exciting. But first off, we're going to hear from Team Liquid. Now, Team Liquid is an esports team, and you might not be familiar with Esports, you might not be familiar with Team Liquid, but they have about 15 teams that play 15 different sports, and therefore they need to gather a lot of data and they need to do a lot of analytics. So later on, we're going to see how they use SAP BTP to do that. But first off, we're going to show you a short video where you can get an idea of what esports is all about and a little more information on Team Liquid.
This is the world, and this a windmill in the Netherlands. This is a computer, a floppy disk, pizza, fries, and some other cliches related to computer gaming. And this is Team Liquid.
This is a team that's on track to be the greatest team LCS ever had.
This team has an unbelievable resume.
Team Liquid, I see them as a top 5 team in the world.
Young champions of the International 2017 is Team Liquid.
He doesn't need to commit, but will he do it anyway? Yes, he has, and that will win in this time.
Team Liquid is going to be your Sierra champions. They are the only team to lift the trophy.
All right, so that was a little bit about Team Liquid. As you can see, esports is probably not like you imagined it, and it's a very, very large industry. So we're going to hear from Victor Goossens, who's actually the founder and co-CEO of Team Liquid, and he's going to be talking to our very own Milan Czerny, who's part of the SAP Global Partnerships team. Now, Team Liquid has been working together with an SAP team to use the capabilities of SAP BTP in order to turn data into business value, understand those analytics, get those insights, and be able to win more championships, like Victor says at the end. So let's watch the video.
Hello and welcome to this quick session about esports, Team Liquid, and what SAP has to do with it. My name is Milan. I work for SAP Global Sponsorships, and in my role, I have the pleasure to be working with a lot of interesting people, industry leaders, thought leaders, and one of them is certainly the gentleman in this session, Mr. Victor Goossens, who's the founder and co-CEO of our partner, Team Liquid. Hi, Victor.
Hey, Milan, and excellent pronunciation of my name there.
I was practicing a lot. So before we go into the topic of esports, let's talk a little bit about yourself first. Obviously, like I said, you're pretty much, seen as a heavyweight in the esports industry. You've been working in esports for a long time. I think more than 20 years by now. Tell us a little bit about your personal background. Like, how did you get into esports? How did you get the idea of founding something like Team Liquid? And did you play professionally yourself?
I mean, I did found Team Liquid. I am the founder of Team Liquid. That is true, but when it was technically first created, it was just a clan on Battle.net, which is the server and communication platform where StarCraft players came together to play with each other. And so I never founded it with the intention for it to become what it is today. Everything has really developed very, very much organically. And so I started off as a StarCraft player, StarCraft 1 that is. I found the game when I was in high school, and I just really, I was incredibly passionate about it from the get-go. For me, it's not just about like gaming or playing games. Honestly, for me, it was an outlet, one, for my competitive drive, like a place where I could really focus on getting better and competing and self-evaluation, and that just really drew me in. And the second part is actually like the social component. Everything online is so social. If you're willing to see it that way. And so I made a lot of friends back then that I practiced with and hung out with online, and many of them still are good friends of mine today. And so in those years, I founded Team Liquid, but the first 10 years, it was all hobby. I just maintained it out of passion. We created a website where we covered professional StarCraft, developed a community there that grew a lot all the way until 2010 when StarCraft 2 came out. And in the meantime, in those years, I actually switched to being a professional poker player myself, which allowed me a lot of freedom in life. I could set my own schedule and figure out what I wanted to do. And so I was always able to work on Team Liquid on the side. And when StarCraft 2 came out, that was basically the sequel to the game that we build our reputation in, that we build our brand in. And it also exploded esports in the West. Maybe not compared to today's standards, but compared to 2009 standards, it certainly did. And it was really the first game where large audiences were drawn together, big viewership online. And so with that, Team Liquid blew up as well, and that's really when I started doing this full time. Since then, we have been just continuously developing. We've gone into more games and found more partners such as SAP that support us in being able to do what we do. Today we have over 100 players. We have 170 staff members. We have two headquarters, one in the Netherlands, one in Los Angeles, and we are in 15 different games.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. I think, being a little bit conscious about our audience today, SAP has been working in esports for about 3 years now. We have you as our strategic partner, but would you mind giving us a little bit of a rundown and a summary of what esports actually is? Because I don't think, even though it's been around forever now, or for a very long time, and it kind of relates to gaming, I'm not sure if everybody really understands what esports is about.
Ultimately, esports is a collection term for games that are played at a competitive level. It is an easy term to communicate about our industry and what we do. If you dive in a little bit, you'll find that the games that we are in really should be treated as their own separate and individual sports, actually. So you can look at Team Liquid as an organization that is in 15 different sports. All of these 15 have different players, they have different communities, they have different cultures, they have different monetization. What it comes down to is competitive gaming. And for Team Liquid, it is about winning the championships. It is about getting the results and building a business and a framework around that to find continuous success. We do that together with you supporting us in the software and data department.
Cool. And so let's look a little bit more at the teams and the players then. So as I understood correctly, those players are professionals for the most part, right? So does that mean they spend all their time playing games? And what are those games? What are the most important games? And what does a day in the life of a player look like?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say the largest game in the world is League of Legends. A couple of really other big games are Counter-Strike, Dota, Valorant is really coming up. But yeah, these players are very much the definition of professionals. They give this their all. They are full-time. They are entirely dedicated to their craft. And it's honestly not because Team Liquid tells them to do this. I mean, these are individuals that were so passionate about the games they wanted to get good at. They played them for many, many years before they got to a professional level, played them all day just because they loved it so much. And then they reached a certain stage in their lives and in their career where they can compete with the world's best. And that's where Team Liquid oftentimes comes into the picture for many of these players. So they are supported with full-time salaries, oftentimes in the bigger games, full-time salaries that set them up for the rest of their lives. I mean, this is not a small industry anymore. And oftentimes you'll see like our practice schedules are usually like, say, 7 hours a day, where together with the coaching staff and the support staff and our analysts, the players are practicing, scrimming is what we call it, analyzing their games. And then after that, beyond that, oftentimes these players are again logging into their respective games to practice even more. practice on their own and hone their own individual skills. So yeah, it's definitely we do everything we can to optimize their environment and their support so they can focus on their craft.
So a lot of time committed on those sides of the players. I think let's get into the analysis bit a little bit later on, because that's actually at the core of our partnership as well. But quick question from my side. So these games that you're talking about, they're free to play for the most part, right? So would you say that everybody could get into esports, and could everybody become a professional? Or do you think that there's like any core skills, core values that these professionals have and have to have in order to be successful?
Yeah, it is extremely accessible. That is for sure. I would definitely say anyone can become a professional, but that doesn't mean that if you and I started practicing tomorrow, that we still have that opportunity today. Of course, it requires getting into it at a relatively young age, having a lot of lead up and years of investment before you reach that professional stage. I mean, that's the same in any developed sport. If you look at football, I would say any professional in that sport probably started when they were 4 years old. Okay, so it's not 4 years old for our games per se, but you do see kids picking up games that they are enjoying at a very, very young age, early teenagers, and then maybe they reach the professional level by age 17 or 18 or sometimes 20 or 21. And it is possible to play or practice and pick it up like from your home. As long as you have a PC set up, you can log in and you can find people to play with, and that's what makes it so unique. You don't have to go and find a field to play with and figure out like when your friends are playing in the evening or when your training starts. You can really just start up anytime you want.
Cool, interesting. Yeah, I guess for you and I, well, you had your history. I think for me it's too late then, but that's fine. Let's talk a little bit about the setup for Team Liquid again. I think you mentioned at the beginning, you have headquarters in 2 different countries, you have training facilities, you have 2 CEOs, so you're one of them, Steve is the other one in North America.
Yep.
So you're a truly multinational organization with a lot of players, a lot of staff members. Let's focus a little bit on the training facility thing, because I know you launched something very new recently in the Netherlands. Why is a training facility required, and what does it actually look like, and how does it help your organization to be successful?
Ultimately, what we do is just like any other sport, meaning that it's really about once you get to the highest levels, it's really about the details. If you can gain 1% here and 1% there, that's the difference between winning and losing, and so that is our mentality. And I think that should be everyone's mentality in this line of work. If you're trying to be the best in the world, ultimately that is how you are going to get there. And so for us, the training facility offers many great things. Firstly, I think what's really important is actually to touch a little bit on the degree and the amount of communication that these players go through. I'm not aware of a sport or a work environment at all that requires as much communication as our competitive teams do. So if you're playing in an actual match, you're continuously sharing information about what you're seeing. You're continuously indicating what your next move is going to be. And so there's a lot of communication going on there. But then after that is done, you need to discuss like if you went about it the right way, if you used the right strategies, and sometimes you have to point out flaws maybe in your teammates or the other way around, and you have to accept that. And so there's so much communication and feedback and critique and criticism going on that it is very, very important to meet with each other face to face at least every now and then. And you can hash through these big conversations and these big topics in a group setting, in a group environment. I think we, with COVID, I think we're all experiencing that online work really does work as well. But I think when things get tense and there's really like that depth and that degree of communication going on, I think the world still realizes it does help to be in the same room with each other. So that is a big element of the facility, where we're bringing these teams in together so they can go through these training camps and they go through that type of improvement. Beyond that, the things that we offer here, physical activities. There's a gym basically under our facility where the players can go and they can work out. We have a ping pong table. We have chefs that are taking care of food. They don't have to worry and they don't have to think about like what's going to be my lunch, what's going to be my dinner. Am I going to have to order? What will it be? Like, do I have to go to the supermarket? They don't have to worry about any of that stuff. And so they can, it's not just about the time saving, but it's actually also just the mental knowledge of not having to worry about anything except for your own craft is, I think, very, very helpful to exceed in your performance. And so those are some of the things that we can offer here.
That's very interesting. Thanks for that. I think we can kind of now have a little bit of a deep dive into the analytics part and the the preparation part in certain games. So, like I said in the beginning, SAP has been active in esports since 2018, and Team Liquid was actually our very first strategic partner in that segment. We started working with your Dota 2 team in the first place. We now extended our collaboration to work with League of Legends as well, and we are using SAP software like SAP HANA, SAP Cloud Platform, to really take in-game data and to provide it to the teams for them to be able to analyze themselves and opponents. Now, I think in the entire industry, I don't know what your take on that is, but I think we've seen many teams kind of extending their organization in that way. So they hire analysts, they hire people like data scientists to really look into the data and find the nuggets to become better. Now, from your perspective, maybe tell us a little bit about how that SAP partnership has affected those teams from the beginning, and what you think the relevancy is from technology, from analytics on those players and also the coaching staff.
Yeah, and I think just for context for the listener or the viewer, if you look at the biggest game that we are in, besides the 5 players, there's a head coach, there's an assistant coach, there's strategic coaches, there's positional coaches, there's analysts. So there's a real support team around it, sports psychologists as well. So we do, we really care like to make sure that everything is perfect in terms of performance. And so within that context, I imagine it also makes sense for anyone listening to this that like the analytical side matters a lot, and especially within gaming and within esports, the amount of data that we have is, it's tremendous. I would even say like there's so much data you can say it can be overwhelming to some extent, and so that's really where our partnership comes in. I think even from day one that we started talking, I think for our space, our community, but also for Team Liquid in particular, it's really important that we create true alignment with our partners and stories, yes, but stories that are real. And I think our community sees through it if that is not the case. And so that was the same for you and on your end. And so we found that alignment in analytics, data, and that support for our Dota team helps find the data. It helps present the data. And this might get a little bit technical, but for example, for our Dota team, it helps them to figure out patterns for smoking behavior. That sounds a little bit weird in this context, maybe, but that is an in-game term, or drafts from other teams and other captains. So there's many ways where that can help support our coaches and our players.
And I think it's worth mentioning that I guess we have a lot of listeners who are familiar with traditional sports, but not so much with esports. These games are pretty much fully controlled by their publishers, right? And one part of that is also that these games are being patched on a regular basis. I know from past talks to you, but also to the team, and with our developers who we've hired specifically to work on this subject, that these patches are sometimes a pain because they change the game balance quite a lot. And so insights and analytics that you could do on a previous patch level don't apply so much for the current one. How much do you think does that affect the work with analytics tools, and is there a way around that?
Yeah, I think if the patches did not exist, you can probably get even more out of your analytics. So there are certain topics or parts of the game that are a little bit difficult to touch because they are constantly changing. So you look at the data tells you something, but if you start implementing that or applying that and you realize like actually the game has changed, then obviously that's not going to help you. But within that, there's absolutely elements of these games that stay the same. It's just our responsibility to figure out like which elements do stay the same, which elements have overlap from one patch to the next, and that we utilize SAP support in the right way by doing that.
Cool. Yeah, that's really interesting, and I think we're on a good way there. I think what I want to point out as well is that you grew with the partnership as well from our perspective. Like I said, we hired 2 developers to work specifically on this, and we've seen, an evolution on your side as well. So now we have, fixed contacts that we are in touch with on a regular basis. We really get the feedback from your side, and we develop features as we go, and it's all about a continuous improvement, which is necessary, right?
Data is one thing, but you need the people that also understand like how to use it. So there's coaches and there's players that have a very intuitive style. They understand strategy. They know what's going on. But sometimes it's difficult to explain it, for example, or what is the basis? What are the facts that they are basing their intuition on? And so when that is the case, it's a little bit more difficult to make use of data. So we also had to grow in this partnership. Like, how do you make the most out of data? Which people are the right people to facilitate that? And so that's really falling into place. We're really happy with where we're currently at.
Let's look at the future a little bit. So I'm actually really interested to hear from you because you're one of the, most established organizations in the world. You yourself have a lot of experience. Where do you see esports as an industry right now? Where do you think it's headed? And we can't not mention it, I guess. How is it affected by COVID? And do you think there's going to be a lasting effect on the industry moving forward by this pandemic?
Yeah, of course. We have our own struggles just like anyone else does. But I do think we're able to cope and deal with it relatively, or maybe even really well. So pre-COVID, our big tournaments were played in stadiums. You can have 5,000 to 10,000 people like cheering for their favorite players, cheering for their favorite teams. That is great for the spectator, the visitor, but it's also for the person watching online. That stadium environment is awesome to follow and awesome to feel. So we missed that a little bit, and that is very much unfortunate. But at the same time, because everything we do is so digital, we are able to continue our tournaments. We do play them online, and even though the monetization of what we do, like for example, the partnerships, the media rights, some of those companies are going through their own challenges with the economical crisis. But if you look at the viewership, our viewership is actually up this year. It's doing really, really well. And I think the reason for that is when esports continues and many other sports come to a hold, or they're not as active, people will tune in. They are looking for entertainment. And so the viewership is doing great. Long-term sort of consequences, as you asked, I would say long-term, it can actually be a positive for us, because when the economical crisis either slows down or maybe is entirely gone and growth starts to happen again, I do think a portion of that viewership growth that we've accomplished this year will remain and will stick around. So actually long term, it might be a blessing in disguise for an industry like esports. With regards to where it's going, I have to admit that if you've done this for as long as I have, and the first 10 years were all just a hobby, that wasn't based on where it was going. That was based on in the moment, enjoying what I was doing. And I still feel like that a lot today. And I never really thought about where it was heading or what we needed to accomplish. That was just not a part of my motivation. So it's not something that I spend a lot of time thinking about. Ultimately, what I care about is that Team Liquid is at the very top of this industry. And where the industry will go is a little harder for me to control. And so I don't spend a lot of time thinking about it. That said, I do think that esports and or gaming is a generational change. It is not at all something in the moment or something short term. What we are seeing, and this might surprise some people, or maybe it doesn't, but what we're seeing is like at the upper ages of our fans or even our staff or whoever is involved with esports, people are not leaving. They're continuing to watch. They're continuing to enjoy it. If anything, you oftentimes see like once people establish families or maybe job and work takes over, they might play games a little bit less, but they spend as much or more time watching. It is easier to do on the side. It is very relaxing to watch, and just like watching any other sport. So we see that at the upper ages, and the younger ages are growing up with gaming. Gaming is just such a big part of basically the life of a young child or adult, like in the West or even in the East. And so we're seeing like that generational change is continuously happening, and I think esports is only going to grow more and more.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And last question for today. A little bit more specifically and a little bit more about something that you're more in control of. What's next for Team Liquid as such? Do you have any exciting stuff coming up? I know you signed a new team this year. I know you have an interesting year coming up next year. So, what keeps you busy right now?
I mean, there's always so much awesome stuff going on. One really cool thing, so we just opened up the facility in the Netherlands a couple months ago. That was a big milestone for us. I founded Team Liquid here in this country and this city even myself, but actually, I'm not sure if this is even public knowledge, but we're actually going to open up a facility in Brazil eventually as well, and we're slowly starting the planning to build something in Sao Paulo, even if it's a long time away right now. And so I think that's really exciting. It's just another example of being a global company, a global industry. So that's really exciting. Yeah, there's always something big going on.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Victor. Thanks for being with us today. Really interesting chat, and a pleasure as always. I hope everybody enjoyed it as much as I did.
Don't worry about it. The pleasure is all mine. I really appreciate the invite and appreciate the support. And let's go win some more championships together.
Awesome. Well, thanks again. And to everybody watching, make sure to follow Team Liquid on all the social media channels. They put out some great content. They have a great community on Twitter, on Facebook, and on Instagram. Please make also sure to follow SAP Sports to learn more about all the other great partnerships we have in sports, in traditional sports, in esports, and in culture. And there's also a website which you can reach on sap.com/esports-experience, where there's a lot more to learn about our Team Liquid partnership, about their teams, but also about the other stuff that we do in esports. So thanks again for watching, and bye-bye.
All right, well, that was another great example of how our customers can use SAP Business Technology Platform to turn data into business value. So next up, we have the making of TechEd 2020. And I have Thomas waiting in the developer lab to tell you more. So Thomas, back to you.
Thank you, Cecilia. This is great. It's amazing to see all the experience here in TechEd and in Channel 1 at 2020. So what we also wanted to do, since we got a lot of questions from everybody out there, how you guys did this. So we want to take a half an hour and go behind the scenes even deeper, looking at the making of TechEd 2020, the virtual experience. We have a few guests here who worked behind the scenes, worked really hard, and their teams as well. And we want to take this time to really go through, have deep interviews on what is all needed to put such an experience together. It's not something which we started on Monday, as I think I said before. This is in production since 6-8 months already. And it's also great to take the last 2 hours, or almost last 2 hours of TechEd, to have this glimpse and open the door and also talk about the learnings. We know a lot of things have worked amazingly great, and it was a great experience for me to put it all together, but the bigger experience was to see how we put the things together. And that's the part we want to go deep, show you more, and also have a technical look. There's a lot of things going on you cannot see right now, but also a lot of things what had to be produced and made happen by a lot of people behind the scenes. This, I also want to invite 2 special guests. One of them, it's Craig. He has been here as a host, so I don't need to introduce you. But another one is Daniela Andersens. She is the person who made all things happen in Channel 1. So I'm really honored to have her coming on the show. And then later on, we have also Brian Rickards and Kathy Lopez, who are working in the technology side on the platform, but also on the event side to put this all together. And with that, we want to show a little bit more behind the scenes.
Here I am, I'm standing on probably the most sophisticated and unbelievable stage I've ever stood on in my life.
The way this is done can be described as virtual production. That's kind of a newer term and a newer production technology that has become popular since The Mandalorian.
This is something that I've never experienced before, I've never really seen before. I've always worked with a green screen, and this LED technology that we're using for this year's TechEd is completely different.
The basic of this studio is not only the really big LED screen and the LED floor. The basic are the tracked cameras. We have 2 cameras on pedestals and we have a camera crane, and all these 3 cameras are tracked. That means the computer gets information where exactly the camera moves, and the computer tells the real-time 3D engine where it's placed in that moment. So that means the whole virtual set, and it's completely perspective, moves around all the time the camera is being moved.
I mean, I've been in environments where there's lighting and, you know, they put the lights on you and they move this around, or there's a stage where they physically bring out all the props and everything like that. But to be honestly inside of a video game is just amazingly cool.
A live show with 48 hours, with this technology, with 3 cameras, and that level of production hasn't been achieved or been produced in Europe so far.
We bring the customer needs together with, of course, the community needs, but also with all the other great partners we have in this whole production.
One of the main differences I think that virtual TechEd has with a regular physical event is the amount of people that we're going to be able to reach. Here we're talking about 50, 60, 100,000 people that will be able to look at the content, they'll be able to understand what SAP has to offer, and they'll even be able to get hands-on experience. And also, because you can watch the sessions afterwards, I really hope that we continue to engage with the community with regard to the TechEd sessions all throughout the next year.
Okay, so we are now in the developer lab again. I always have to still look like which room is it, because the guys are switching the stuff so fast around. And so making of TechEd 2020, not only Channel 1, we also want to go into the whole experience of TechEd. And I'm honored to have you two here. So Craig, no introduction, you were seen a lot on Channel 1 and everybody knows Craig, but really, really happy to have Daniela Andersens here. You did a lot Channel 1 here, so maybe you can talk a little bit on your role and what you did for Channel 1 here.
Yeah, thank you, Thomas. So I really can't believe that I'm now sitting here with you two in this virtual environment. So yeah, I'm a bit overwhelmed.
Yeah, my name is Daniela Andersens. I'm part of the Technology and Innovation Board area, and working there in the communication and marketing team and being responsible for all the event-related topics. And yeah, I was asked to being the lead for this year's Virtual TechEd Channel 1, and I agreed. And yeah, now we're sitting here together. It's so unbelievable.
And there was no like for everybody out there, we decided 24 hours ago to make this segment, and really
it wasn't even 24 hours ago.
Time is flying really, really fast. So the idea with Channel 1, that was a crazy idea, and I don't know when we started it and how it came up. I think we had a meeting, Craig, or
it was this just idea that we said, okay, we can throw a bunch of stuff out there online, but we need some way of kind of tying the pieces together. And just this idea of Channel 1 started to form, but nothing like what we're sitting in right now.
And then I think, Daniela, you came in and you were like taking us through a systematic approach and a lot of things which popped into the decision here.
Yeah, so I guess it was in March, when it came up, okay, it might be the case that we will have TechEd only virtual this year. And then when it became clear, we were thinking like, okay, how could this look like, and what are we gonna do there? And then I was always sure there need to be a way out there to really get all this amazing content we're having and we are providing our audience there into a format that is really, really engaging for our audience and that perfectly fits to all the people out there. Yeah.
And that's where you came then also up with the concept here together with the agency on the TechEd home.
Yeah, so what was really important there for us is doing something completely new, doing something innovative there. And so we put a lot of thoughts together and thought about, okay, what
Rejected
would be
a lot
an
of
idea?
designs. It was a process.
It was really a process. So some of our first ideas were coming up potentially with a sports studio. Maybe you remember this, and also thought about, okay, maybe creating a virtual online platform, kind of Netflix style or something like that. But yeah, in the end, then with now having the opportunity to really bring this virtual concept to all of you at home, to your living rooms, to your kitchen, to your office, wherever you are, we came up with the idea, why not inviting all the folks out there to us, to our living room, having our great experts, the external and the internal experts, joining us here in this wonderful, beautiful house.
Yeah, and it's an amazing concept. Initially, I saw it on the slides and I was saying, it will be interesting how it works. But you know me, like I'm always questioning a lot of things, but you guys blew it away. And then I think it's also like, Craig, you were like, when you arrived here at the studio, all the jaw dropped completely.
It was really funny because there's a couple of people online who were posting and they asked me like 3 and 4 times, is the floor really part of the virtual thing? And I'm like, yeah, it is. And it is. It's completely jaw-dropping. And honestly, now I've been here around the setup for a week. Yeah, we came in early. We isolated everything like that. We came in early. And I'm still blown away by this. So much so that, I started playing around with the same technology on my laptop. It's not nearly the same experience as this, but this is truly, and I've made this pun, I don't know, a dozen times already, this is unreal.
Yeah, and then I think it's like you were looking so much around that also people were following you and they created also something about it, and it's called the Inside SAP TechEd 2020 with Craig. So let's
what?
Yeah, we should have a look at that one.
What? No. Seriously?
Yeah.
Let's take a quick peek inside and check out the studio. All right, so this is the behind the scenes that you'll hardly ever get to see normally, but they've got systems set up everywhere. There's cables, there's wiring, there's everything all over the place. And this is the stage. And as you can see, it looks like a typical stage. So what you're seeing online is when they add all the magical elements. The whole Unreal Engine is all over the place. So let's go ahead and take a closer look up here. Come on. Big crane cameras, side cameras, everything. This stuff is so cool. And then if you look up, we've got monitors where they start to show you what it looks like for the audience. So what you guys normally see, right? So if you look there in the camera, I don't know if you can see that, but I'm starting to come up onto the stage But the cool part is, and this is what you guys won't see if we've done everything right during the live broadcast, but there's a monitor right over there, and it shows me kind of just appearing inside of the stage. Super cool. So here I go, I just come up, and all of a sudden, I'm walking into the room, and if I get to the right spot, I'm in the room. This is real. The chairs are real. The rest is not. How cool is that? They've got the big crane camera. This one flies in from the top, shows the different perspective, adds in all the augmented reality perspectives. Then you've got the 2 cameras on the side. They've got teleprompters, which we are actually not using. So crazy, but they're there if we needed to, but usually it just puts a clock up and tells us how much time we have left. But then, yeah, they're building the engine right now. They're just building the environment. Super cool. Absolutely amazing tech. This is just, it's a mix of virtual reality, augmented reality, physical space, just amazing. The crew is utterly awesome. Just how they're pulling us all together, bringing it together, adding in elements for us on the fly. You know, we're just people, right? We're not professionals. We don't do video in studios for a living. So the crew is really making this possible, and it's just amazing. I'm just speechless half the time when I realize what I'm doing and where I am. But to be honestly inside of a video game is just amazingly cool. Unbelievable. It truly is magic. That was awesome. I remember doing it. It was like 6 or 7 different takes. I mean, I didn't know what to say. They just said, "Hey, go show us the studio." That was really cool.
I think the secret is, I guess, when they have to tear down the studio, then you will be still standing here and watching it. I saw you like always as soon as this thing opened up, and it was like amazing. But there's another thing like this, like what Daniela has here on the table. I think it's called the rundown. And I think, guys, everybody out there,
it's version 5.
Okay.
This is how we were driven through the last 46 hours by the rundown.
Yeah.
And maybe Daniela, you and the team created all this rundown.
Yeah, and honestly, it all started, you remember, with these huge blank Excel sheet.
Oh, God.
I guess we both had a call when I started creating a rundown for a 48-hour, 49, including the pre-show, show. It was really like, okay, how should I get started there?
I realized at that point I really did need glasses.
Yeah, and then it evolved over all the weeks and months, and what we came up with, and I guess this was in the end really helpful and really good for us, creating 1-hour blocks, also for our audience, 1-hour topic blocks, showing different speakers, having different formats in these hour blocks, talking about specific topics there. And as you have seen over the last hours here in Channel 1, and then it evolved, and with this great production team, it really became a more professional version, and in the end now we are having 613 positions, and just this special hour added 30 additional positions into the rundown.
It's a bit more than that. There's a couple of A's and B's in there on a position.
Yeah. And look what's back there.
Casimir, our
everybody's
cat.
guessing what's the name of the cat, so you just gave it away.
Yeah, this was a fun story. So we needed a name for the cat, and I told my husband that we have a cat in our TechEd home, and that he mentioned, why do not call him Casimir? And I was like, okay, Casimir. Okay, let's call him Casimir. And now the whole team is familiar to this.
I remember this story while we were working up to all of this of why we even ended up with a cat to begin with. And it was early morning. We were doing early morning phone calls every single morning with the agency. And Marie comes on the phone and you hear this in the background. And we're like, what's going on? My cat's like freaking out going, what's this? And it turns out that she had cats, then I had cat, then my cat walked across the camera at some point, and yeah, we decided why not bring the cat with us?
Yeah, so there's plenty of cats and other things, and also like more people behind the scenes. Also we'll soon interview Kathy Lopez and Brian Rickards. They were also very key people here on the show. And yeah, like Kathy and Brian, you and your teams, and it's so great to see you. Hello, how are you guys doing?
Hey, Thomas. Hey, everybody.
So it's
Hey, Thomas. So great to be on this side of the camera.
Yeah, no, it's like we had so many, I don't know, I was trying this morning to figure out how many thousands of calls and video calls we had. I remember like late night hours. So you're the partner in crime here, putting this all together around TechEd. From the overall experience, it's amazing. It's amazing what was accomplished here by the teams. So, and I'm glad that we were on a short notice. I think it was less than 24 hours. I sent you an email. You want to come and explain and show to the team here a little bit more on what is it all about, TechEd experience and how we put the virtual event together. So with that, definitely like, often the people who are working hard, they're kind of like the center backs. Like, as you say, like if something goes wrong, then like, okay, what is happening here? And then, but if everything goes great, you don't hear too much about the people who are working really hard in the back. And I think we can say TechEd, everything worked out overall really good. So big thanks to everybody who worked on TechEd. And yeah, like let's tell us a little bit more like about how you put it all together.
Well, it was fun listening to Daniela talk about some of the backstory there for Channel One. I mean, we were brought in probably about 6 months ago, I think, Brian, right? Yeah. Give or take.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And, you know, the challenge we had in front of us is how do we bring this incredible amount of content to a virtual audience and make it engaging, interesting, and fun? Like, and a lot of it, quite honestly, we didn't know, right? We had to figure it as we went. Like, would people participate in a virtual fun run? We hope so. And we got to see and enjoy and watch everybody's pictures and stories of how they were. But it was a really careful balance of delivering that right experience so that we know that people would feel and walk away feeling like they were part of something very special. You know, it's a new format for us. You know, you just saw the tape about the experience and the technology and how we, you know, the teams were amazing to bring in video game technology to it. So we're innovating here, and that's unknown, but yet exciting as well. I mean, so many things to consider: logistics, speaker management, right? Number of sessions and content management. I mean, so much to think about. I don't know, Brian, what your point of view here?
Yeah, I mean, this was a huge endeavor, plain and simple. And the reality is running an event, you know, on a small scale and running a TechEd is just completely different. And we had to learn from previous events, from our, you know, other big tech companies, how they were running events, what worked well, what didn't work well, and how do we bring that to TechEd to give the best experience that we possibly could.
Yeah. It's a transformation, this world, and we're seeing it unfold as we're doing it. Really.
Yeah. And I think like with a virtual event, it's often like the people only see the platform or the website, but there's much more behind it. Like we know that from content production, setting up the platform, making sure the speakers and the experts show up on time. Maybe you can walk us through a little bit from the initial ideas to kind of like how it all came together and to bring it to life.
Okay, I'll go first, Brian, if you want me to. Yeah, but I think when you think about it, we had to establish brand new ways of working. And remember, we had to do this in a virtual environment. We weren't able to get together in a conference room and whiteboard out new ways of working and understanding new ways of how we could do things. So we had the challenges that all of us have faced, just in our regular workday, with, being at home, homeschooling and balancing, just life, while trying to deliver something brand new. So it's establishing those new processes. And we definitely, from a business point of view, gave the technology team a run for their money, because you look at the volume of content, right? And the pure volume and the expectation of the audience was quite high. Like, we didn't know how we were going to do the virtual workshop environment, right? When you think about it, when you set that up in an in-person event, you're able to get computer environments right. You're able to set the room the way you want to. When you're doing that virtually, I mean, as just one small example, it's not easy. You're dealing with many different computer environments and trying to figure out how the Zoom's going to connect in. It was definitely a feat that the teams had to learn and break through as we went through. And you look at it, I mean, 900 plus sessions created? I mean, we had to stick to deadlines, and that was a lot of what Brian's team did. So, Brian.
Yeah, I mean, this was a huge, huge challenge, because running, like I said before, running a smaller event and running a TechEd are just two different things. And this is really the biggest event at SAP. And from a content perspective to an engagement perspective, making sure that we had the scale to manage the volumes of participants, having thousands and thousands of people on chat at the same time, asking questions at the same time. The technology needs to scale significantly. And that was a part of that experience and a really big part of the planning, to figure out how to scale.
Yep. Making sure we could support it. How many monitors did we train, Brian?
I think we had about 150 moderators, and then I think 500, SAP employees behind the scenes answering questions.
Yeah. Quite a feat.
Wow, that's impressive numbers here. So let's talk a little bit about experience. I think that's also a big shift, and I think definitely in the events or virtual events, like everybody goes through this. Like in the past, we had the physical event, we had everybody in a conference center. I almost said a conference room here, and you had them captured. You could throw a concert for them, and like how did you came up with the ideas and how to change this and bring this into a virtual world here?
Maybe, Kathy, I can jump in first here.
Yeah, sure.
But I mean, the experience is foundational to everything. When you take a physical event and you put it into the virtual world, those little nuances of the experience, the minimizing of clicks to how does chat work, how does Q&A work, what other smaller experiences can we embed in there, become the basis of this entire event. So we spent a lot of time trying to understand how to streamline that experience throughout, removing clicks the best we could, taking in as much user feedback as we could before we launched the event, and of course, during the event, trying to pivot little bits of the experience to make it just a tiny bit better, because we know every little improvement is going to make, across thousands of people, it's going to make it pretty impressive. But from the Q&A to the chat to how do we get Channel 1 into the platform and streamed across social, so that people can really consume content where they want to consume content, which is really, really important.
Yeah, I remember trying to take the team together. Remember when we first got together, Brian, our teams had to figure out how to do wireframes, right? and that was a moment where it was like, wireframes, why do we need wireframes, right? Because my team's amazing at doing in-person experiences, and we're essentially delivering this massive web experience to everybody. And it was definitely an opportunity here for us to work together and educate everybody. And I'm super proud of the way the team has come together to learn, right, and understand and grow in this environment, so that we understand and learn. I mean, the whole point of bringing people together for an event is to build that sense of community, and the TechEd community is strong. I mean, watching, we're behind the scenes watching all the tweets, we're watching the comments and the questions, and it's just fantastic to watch that community come together for these 48 hours and share with each other, learn from each other. It's quite impressive, and we really have a lot of people to appreciate for this.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah.
Perfect. So, like one more last quick question. What's the day off, and how is that one going? And are you guys still high on caffeine, or is that slowly reducing?
Well, I can tell you I've got plenty of caffeine right next to me. And day of, I mean, as of right now, we're watching the rooms, and I'm actually seeing little tickers popping up from the war rooms that we're running behind the scenes that are talking about what's happening during the events, across Channel 1, and of course during all the sessions. So there's a whole team. Just want to say hi to the team back in the room.
Everybody.
Hey, everybody. And, want to thank them because they're doing all the heavy lifting. As Kathy said, watching every message that comes across, responding in real time, and ultimately, trying to make that experience just, every bit as good as possible.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Perfect. So thank you so much. And also big thanks to your teams. They did an amazing job. Nothing more to add. Thanks.
Thank you for
Okay, so this was fun. It's also good to see the others areas, and it's gigantic. This TechEd endeavor and a lot of things. I guess there was also the big thing we had to invent new. Yeah, we took things from the existing physical world, of course, only the good stuff. The best comment I heard from outside is this year my Wi-Fi for TechEd really works. So also improved on a few other things.
There was one Wi-Fi complaint, but he talked to himself about it and he fixed it. So.
Okay, so that's good. So it's also good that we can get the audience engaged. So definitely a fun segment. A lot of things which had to put together. Great that we were able here to also pull this off. So big thanks to the team here.
Yeah,
definitely.
The studio, the cameras, everybody who helped us. And we are not professional moderators, and we're not professionally doing this studio work on a daily basis. When I came in on Friday, I was like, okay, I have no idea how I survive this next week. But somehow it all came together.
I'm hoping that everybody out there understands now a little bit more why we're so super excited about all of this, and why we're also a little exhausted, as we all had to become script writers and understand cues and rundowns and positions and everything.
Okay, so there's 2 more hours to come, TechEd. So these are the 2 last hours live on TechEd. So TechEd is still there. So stay with us. Really good content coming up. Totally excited. Executive Q&A with Jürgen in an hour. The Devtoberfest winners. So plenty of content for you to enjoy.